Basics, people. We're going to be talking about part 2 of the CAD Basics here while I get my sound levels right. Hello again. I didn't really intend for this to be 2 videos, but we got kind of interrupted in the middle of the last one, so here's part 2. Let's talk about where we were at. We were at a AutoCAD web app window looking at the model view. We're going to talk about the difference between model and layout view here. We drawn the first rectangle, we drawn a line, we drawn a circle, we would drawn a line here, which is a bit of a roundabout way of doing what's called an absolute dimension. I'm just going to delete these lines because we don't really need them now. The absolute dimension is something we will often use in AutoCAD, and we would actually put the number sign in front of a coordinate point before we did it, and that's how we would get that line exactly where we wanted it to do. Now, the thing that we're going to use right now, we're going to go back to our dimensioning layer, and I just want to make sure that I get all of my dimensions on this properly. Now, notice that little green dashed line. I'm going to zoom in on it here. As I scroll along, you can see there's a green dashed line on the side here. And that green dashed line represents what's called an ortho snap, or an orthogonal snap. And it's actually going to give me a line that I know is exactly 90 degrees to vertical, or I guess it is perfectly horizontal, I guess we could say. It is something that is hugely useful when dealing with your dimensions, because often you're going to have to put dimensions in here that are completely vertical. And I'm going to find out when I do this that, hey, 2.5877, yeah, that's all right. That's what I wanted that to be. I'm just going to hop over here and grab my CAD Basics web drawing again to make sure that that's right. It is. That's correct. All right, so now I've gotten to a point where I've drawn most everything on here, and you're going to finish all of the pieces of this, but you now have all the tools to do so. Let's talk about presenting this. There's a couple things I need on this drawing. The very first is an actual title. The only piece you don't need to do on this drawing in order for it to be an acceptable drawing to submit is you do not need to put this little tools used, line, relative points, absolute points, rectangle, circle, dim. Don't need that, but you do need a name on it, okay? CAD Basics 01, Drawing Lines, is the title for this. So I'm going to hop down to my Annotate menu, and I am actually going to use the Text tool, or multi-line text. Now you notice when I click here, I'm going to get text that's a little bit weird. CAD Basics 01, Drawing Lines. That's awesome. Nothing wrong with that. But when I click check mark, this is going to happen. I mean, that doesn't work. That doesn't show up very well at all. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this, and again, I'm going to use the select tool. And if I select from right to left, you notice that I get this green box, but if I go left to right, I get this blue box. The blue box isn't really good for selecting stuff here. The blue box only works if you select the entirety of something. So I can select this dimension here if I want to, but if I try to select the CAD Basics 01, I'm going to have to go all the way around. If I drag right to left, I get a green box. Anything I even touch, even just a little bit, notice I just touched the edge of this dimension here, and it selected it. So I'm going to actually use that green box to just touch that text. And then I'm just going to double click on the text itself, and what's going to happen is it's actually going to let me, there we go, when I double click on it, it's going to let me go back in and edit it. And I'm going to change the text size. In this drawing, I like a text size of about 0.25, and I'm going to press enter. Now, if I ever wanted to know kind of what was going on with this, I can go over to the menu here and actually click on the Properties tab, and I can see that, yeah, I know a lot of information about this, and the text height is now 0.25, so I kind of know what's going on here. Personally, I'm just going to drag this line out so that it's one line of text, and there we go. I'm going to have something that works pretty well. Now, that being said, this is the model view. So if I go up here to the views, right now I have a model view and I have a couple of layout views. I don't really need those layout views. Layout views are best thought about in terms of architectural drawings. So if I'm drawing a house, for example, I probably want a different view. I want a different piece of paper, basically, for each room in the house for the person building it. I might even want a small piece of paper for, let's say, a closet or for a smaller piece of the house. That's what views are good for. I can have as many layouts as I want. I can just keep adding them and adding them and adding them. For your drawing, you really only need one layout. We're going to go one layout, and we're going to lay out just this drawing. Now immediately when we get in here, we double click inside this square, or this rectangle, and we realize we have a slight problem, which is we can't see anything. This is just brutal. I'm going to click this button up top here that says Zoom Extents, and that's going to zoom in so that I can see the whole page, just the page that I'm looking at right now. That's something that's somewhat important, and it's it's a good way to go. But I have a problem, I have a huge problem right now. I can't see anything. Let's go to my layers and let's make this easy. I'm going to go and make my drawing a very different color. I'm going to pick blue. Notice that all of my drawing colors now got really dark. I'm going to go to my dimension layer and I'm going to make it something I can see. Let's say red. Okay, this is much easier to see. Now I recommend that you pick your own custom color scheme. I don't really care what color you use. Take a pick from any of them that are in here. I use red and blue on the example drawings. You can use red and blue, but keep in mind I may ask some questions, especially if it looks exactly like the example drawing. Show me that it's yours. That being said, and it should be exactly like the sample drawing, that is really what your assignment is here. Once we've gotten to this point, we have an almost finished drawing. There's two things that it needs. Right now you can see that there's some gray lines here, and if I zoom out, or sorry, if I double click on this and zoom out, you'll see that I still have a grid here. I'm going to make the grid go away. How I do that is very simply, I'm going to type in grid. Okay, it's going to say, do you want to make a grid? Yes. Press enter. It's going to give me some options down here. It says specify grid spacing. If I wanted to make a small grid, if I needed it for my drawing, I could. I don't really need to. I really just want to make it go away. So I'm going to click the off button, and the grid's going to go away. Again, I'm just going to click on my zoom extents button up here, and I'm going to zoom in on just this drawing. Now I'm almost done. This is almost finished. It's as close as you're going to get. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the save button, obviously, because I've been saving frequently while doing this. I'm now going to go up and I'm going to actually hit the print button. Now in CAD, the print is often also called plot. Plot and print are, for all intents and purposes, the same thing. And plot, in this case, is going to actually, and this comes from the early days of AutoCAD, when a plotter, a literal printer with an arm with a marker on it, would actually draw a lot of the things that you were doing in AutoCAD. I'm going to print to PDF. Now, I'm going to take my current layout. I'm going to scale it 1:1. That means 1 unit or millimeter on here is 1 unit on the actual drawing. That part's not important right now. Plot scale, not important. Paper size, I like A4. Nothing wrong with that. And we're going to make this landscape orientation. Plot to PDF. Now what's going to happen is it's going to say PDF is generating up here in the top. And when it's done, it's going to say PDF is ready to download. Now you may get an error that says PDF failed. If you get that, go back and check your actual drawing name. If your drawing name had spaces instead of underscores, it may have actually gone wrong. I've had this happen to me a bunch of times. Okay, I'm going to click on download PDF, and what's going to happen is you're going to see a download start that's going to have the PDF drawing. PDFs are awesome. Okay, PDF is portable document format. It shows up the same on every kind of computer you could ever imagine. And this is awesome. I highly recommend you always send your resume in PDF form. That way the employer always sees it the correct way every single time. This is the file that now that you've downloaded it, you need to go to your ePortfolio and upload this file. One thing that I missed on this one that I would recommend you do is I recommend you put your name right on the drawing as well as the title. So put your name somewhere on here. I apologize, I missed it. If you find out you have to do a change like that somewhere in the drawing, hop back to your web app. I'm just going to hop back into my model view really quickly, and I'm just going to actually add it straight on here. And at that point, I've got it. That's awesome. I click save. I go to my layout. I plot my layout as soon as we're done saving. And I'm just going to go grab a new copy of this layout. It's generating, and we are going to be ready to download this in just a moment. There we go. Okay, and again, having your name on it, super important. I take this file, wherever it is on my computer, I upload it to my ePortfolio, and it will show up just fine. And actually, if I'm being completely honest with you, it should show up just like our example drawing, and it should look something like, oh, there we go. I got it in a different window here. That's unfortunate. There we go. Okay, it should show up in your ePortfolio looking something very similar to this. With that being said, you now have all the tools to finish CAD Basics 01. You also have almost all the tools to finish CAD Basics 02. And CAD Basics 02, the only thing that you need to know is how to use the trim. No, you know what? The trim and the O-snap tool we will do in another video. Cheers. Thank you for watching, and good luck with your CAD.